Hello students, welcome to today's video. So in today's video, we are going to discuss about the topic um, and we are going to uh, get into the depth of uh, the topic, and it is nothing but an essay that explores one of the most vital elements on our planet, that is known as water. So when we talk about water, so we are stating about the elixir of life, so which is written by C.V. Raman or Sir C.V. Raman. So to get to know about this particular topic, join me as we embark on a journey to uncover the importance of water in sustaining life, shaping landscapes, and influencing civilization. So we talk about the topic called water, the elixir of life, that has always captivated or called it attracted human interest, from the vast expanse of oceans to the tranquil or smooth flow of rivers. Water plays a pivotal role in shaping the world around us, isn't it? So look into it, what has been pointed here. So the author started with by discussing that man has through the ages wanted in vain for an imaginary elixir of life. When we talk about elixir of life, it means called as a magical liquid of life or called as a magical medicine of life. So which is known as Amrita, the divine Amrita. So when we talk about divine Amrita, it is a draught of which was thought to confer immortality. So confer immortality means it can be known as a kind of a spiritual substance. So but the true elixir of life lies near our hands, for it is the commonest of all liquids, plain water, isn't it? So the author stated that how he remembers one day standing on the line which separates the Libyan desert from the valley of Nile in Egypt. So, what we can draw here, that the author wanted to point out, that human beings have always have always looked for what a magical medicine, so which if drunk once maintains all forms of life, isn't it? Or called as a human being could live a healthy life. So, a spiritual substance which can maintain all forms of life forever. But the real cure is right in his hands, or you can say that right in front of his eyes. The most common type of liquid substance, the humble, plain water, isn't it? So, the author remembers and point out what his experience when he had been to the Libyan desert from the Nile Valley in Egypt. So he pointed that on one side it was a visible a sea of billowing sand. So when we talk about billowing sand, it means we are stating about nothing but the you can say that huge huge waves, huge waves of sand, huge waves of sand without a single green or single green spot. So that is what so spike is indicating as a spot mark of green or single living things anywhere on it. On the other side lay one of the greatest, most fertile and densely populated areas to be ground anywhere on the earth, so teeming with life and vegetation. So when the author pointed that teeming with life and vegetation, so he wanted to point out that it has accumulated, so or called as a teeming means called as a gather, right? It has gathered with the life and vegetation, isn't it? So he also said that what made this wonderful difference. So, why it is the water of the river Nile flowing down to the Mediterranean from its sources a couple of thousands of miles away. Geologists tells us, or geologists tell us, that the entire soil of the Nile Valley is the creation of the river itself. that went down or brought down as the finest silt. So when we say that final silt, it means I'm talking about granular material of a size between a sand and a clay, whose mineral origin is quartz and feldspar. So the author wanted to point out that one side he saw huge waves of sand without a single green spot or any life on it. On the other side, he saw the what most fertile and most occupied land on earth, which is having with a huge, you can say that jungle and the human being who settled there. So he wondered what brought about this magnificent difference. So in that case, it is due to the river Nile that flows down to the Mediterranean from a distance of, you can say that, a couple of thousands of miles away. He also said that how geologists or people who study about the constituents of Earth claim that the river itself has created the soil of the Nile Valley. So who created that? Geologists tell us that the entire soil of the Nile Valley is nothing but the creation of the river. So creation of the river means Nile, right? Itself brought down as the finest silt. So he talk about that what means it has accumulated all the excellent, you can say, mineral sediments. So when we say that means finest silt in its flood waters, it means I'm talking about excellent minerals that you would find out, isn't it? Excellent minerals. So that's called as the natural minerals, right? Natural minerals that you find out of the Nile Valley. And it is nothing but called as a from the highland of Abyssinia and from remote Central Africa, and led down through the ages in the through 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 which the Nile flows into the sea Egypt. In fact, it was made by its river. So the author wanted to point out that means it has gathered all the excellent mineral sediments from its flood waters while flowing from where Abyssinia highlands and interiors of what that's called as a Central Africa, isn't it? It has been sediments in the trenches. So it stayed, and led down through the ages in through which the Nile flows into the sea. So that is what the author wanted to point out. It has been sedimented in the trenches where the river Nile flows into the sea. For hundreds of years, the author says that the country Egypt did what? uh, it was itself was created by the river Nile. It has given life, whom it has given life to the whole civilization and sustained the livelihood in the area by its regular presence every year. So that is what the author pointed here. Its ancient civilization was created and is sustained by the life-giving waters which come down year after year with unfailing regularity. So it means it continues with the regular presence of it every year. Now, if I talk about the next passage, so what do I find out? I give this example. So the author gives this what? The author gives this nothing but an example and could give what many others to emphasize that this common substance which we take for granted in our everyday life. So we are taking water as the granted one, right? In everyday life is the most potent, that's something called as a very important, most wonderful thing on the face of our earth. It has played a role of vast significance in shaping the course of the earth history, and it continues to play the leading role in the drama of life on the surface of our planet. So, if you see that, the author pointed that how means the example of Nile that he stated in the earlier part, and also can state many more, only to indicate what? Reiterated the fact that we do not take water for granted, right? So we are means we need to take water seriously. So since it is the most common substance found on earth, it doesn't mean it is not essential, right? He wants to point out it is the most powerful and glorious. So it is significance and shaping the course of Earth history and continues to play what leading role in the drama of life on the surface of our planet. So that's why he pointed that it has a huge role in defining our history and is also continuously playing a critical part in our life on this planet. So the author also stated that there is nothing which adds so much to the beauty of the countryside as water, be it just a little stream trickling over the rocks or a little pond by the wayside where the cattle satisfies their thirst. So quench means what? That called as just satisfy, right? Satisfy their thirst of an evening. The rain fed tanks that are so common in South India, surprisingly, often so sadly neglected in their maintenance, are a cheering sight when they are full. They are, of course, shallow, but this is less evident since the water is a silt laden and throws the light back, and the bottom does not therefore show up. These tanks play a vital role in South Indian agriculture. Some of these tanks are surprisingly large, and it is a beautiful picture to see the sunrise or set over one of them. Water in a landscape may be compared to the eyes in a human face. It reflects the mood of the hour, being bright and gay when the sun shines, turning to dark and gloomy when the sky is, overcast. So according to the water, according to the author or the Sir Chandrasekhar Venkatraman, that water in any form adds beauty to a place. It can be a small stream, right? It can be a small stream. So that moving down the rocks or a small pond on the way where domestic animals, satisfy their means thirst, isn't it? During evening time, it makes the whole place beautiful. So, according to the author, the concept of water, that's something called as a rain-fed, right? The concept of rain-fed tanks, which we find out where now we find out in South India, where tanks are built to collect rainwater and used for what? That's something called as irrigation purpose. So the author said that it looks lovely when such tanks are full, and it is a wonderful treat for the eyes also, right? So that's why he pointed they are of course shallow, but this is less evident since the water is a laden and throws the light back, and the bottom does not therefore show up. So the author wanted to point out that means uh, it looks lovely when such tanks are full or filled with water, and it is a wonderful treat for the eyes, cheer, cheering sight to everyone. But the system has not been given proper care and maintenance. They have less depth, but it doesn't matter. The water is full of mineral sediments. When we say that, this is less evident since the water is what? Silt laden. So the meaning of silt laden is known as a what? That called as a filled with mineral sediments, right? And what does it do? It reflects the light. It reflects the light in such a way that the riverbed parts is not seen from outside, right? So uh, even the author also said that these tanks are essential for agriculture in South India. Some huge tanks are, you can say that, beautiful sight to see the sunrise or set over one of them. So the author compares the water in a land area to the eyes in a human face. So water in a landscape may be compared to the eyes in a human face. So he explained its importance as it demonstrates the mood of the hour. When the sun is bright, so you would find out and shining. So gay means called as a shining. So or happiness also you can say that. So the water also sparkles, shines, so it becomes dull and you can say that dark. So gloomy means indicating about uh, you can say that dull or called as a not active, lazy type. and the sky is nothing but overcast. Overcast with what? Overcast with the rain. So that's why you can say that how it is overcast with the rain, right? It seems like what? Cloudy, isn't it? So when we talk about, means, one of the most remarkable facts about water, that is what? That is its power to carry. It's power to carry what? Silt or finely divided soil in suspension. This is the origin of the characteristic color of the water in our rain-fed tanks. This color differs with the nature of the earth in the catchment area, and it's most vivid immediately after a fresh inflow following rain. Swiftly or moving quickly flowing water can carry fairly large and heavy particles. The finest particles, however, remain floating within the liquid in spite of their greater density and are carried to great distances. Such particles are, of course, extremely small, but their number is also great. And it's beautifully, incredibly, means unbelievably large amounts of solid matter can be transported in this way. So, uh, the author wanted to point out that it is a distinguished fact, right? It is nothing but called as a remarkable fact about what? About water is that it has the power of carrying what? Mineral sediments. You can say that the characteristic color of the water. So this color varies with the nature of the earth, right? So you would also find out that fine particles of a soil in a mixture state. This is how water gets its color in the rainwater tank, isn't it? So even the author stated that, means the color keeps changing with the earth's different forms in the tanks where rainwater is stored. It differs according to the different water weather pattern. When there is a fresh rain, the color changes into what? That's something called as a brighter, right? So that is what here he pointed, and its most vivid image immediately after a fresh inflow following rain. Moving flowing water can carry fairly large and heavy particles. The finest particles, however, remain, means floating, so within the liquid in spite of their greater density, so and are carried to a great distances. Such particles are of course extremely small, but their number is also great, and unbelievably large amounts of solid matters can be transported in this way. So according to the author, that called as a, means fast moving water has the power to carry bigger and heavy particles, and due to its force, what happened, uh, means you would find out but the dissolved small particles keep moving within the water. Even if it has greater volume, they travel to far distance, right? Such constituents, though small, they are higher in number, and you can say that what? Huge amounts huge amounts of solids, huge amounts of what? Okay, system. Huge amount of solid state, solid, you can say that solid sediments, right? Solid sediments travel in water through this method. So the author also said that when the when silt-laden water mixes with the salt water of the sea, there is rapid precipitation. So, what do you mean by precipitation? So, when we talk about precipitation, it means called as a water that falls from the clouds towards the ground, especially as rain, uh, or you can say that, or snow, right? That is known as a precipitation. So, the author said that when silt laden water, when the water with the soil, silt laden means called as a soil and mineral mixes with the salt water. So there is a, you can say that rapid precipitation, or you can say that there is a swift action of, swift action means that called as a first action of what? Precipitation of the suspended matter. So precipitation means the water that falls as rain or snow due to the chemical reaction in the environment. So, and this can be readily seen when one travels by steamer down a great river to the deep sea. The color of the water changes successively from the muddy red or brown of silt through varied shades of yellow and green, finally to the blue of the deep sea. That great tracts of land have been formed by silt, therefore, deposited is surely or evident on an examination of the soil in alluvial areas. Such land, consisting as it does of finely divided matter, is usually very fertile. So the author stated that this action is very, clear or witnessed or found to our eyes when we move by. You can say that any of the boat or steamboats in huge rivers to the deep sea. So what do you find out? You would find out that when you went through the steamboats, the color of the water also means differ. And that happens continuously from muddy red, brown. So, why does it happen? Now, because silt is mixed into it to different shades of yellow, green, and finally becomes blue in the deep sea. Right. So, a detailed study of the silt deposit soil in such areas has revealed that the silt has therefore formed vast areas of land. And these lands are, you can say that very fertile, very fertile. Why they are called as very fertile? So because means you could say it carries with nothing but lots of minerals into it, isn't it? So the next one, if we look into that, one of the most remarkable facts about water is what? It's a power to carry silt or finely divided soil in suspension. And this is the origin of the characteristic color of the water in rainfed tanks. And this color varies with the nature of the earth in the catchment area. So, and is most vividly immediately after a fresh. Okay, yeah. So, what do we find out here? Means the author said that the flow of water has undoubtedly played a great part and a beneficent one in the geological process by which the soil on the Earth's surface has been formed from the rock of its crust. The same agency, however, under appropriate conditions, can play a destructive part and wash away the soil, which is the foundation of all agriculture. And if allowed to proceed not checked, can have the most disastrous effect on the life of the country. The problem of soil erosion so is one of serious import in various countries and especially in many parts of India. The conditions under which it occurs and the measures by which it can be checked are serving of the close study. So the author wanted to point out one of the most important geological process is the simple flow of water. It is one of the main regions for the conversions of what? That's called as a rock. Conversions of that called as a rock. That is indicating has been formed from the rocks of its crust, isn't it? So the author said that it is one of the primary regions for the conversion of rocks from Earth's crust into soil. So it serves as a huge advantage, right? The same agency, however, under appropriate condition, can also play a destructive part and wash away the soil, which is the foundation of all agriculture. And if allowed to proceed unchecked, can have the most disastrous effect in the life of the country. So therefore, the author stated that though it serves as a huge advantage, there is an equal disadvantage as well. In some circumstances, you can say that what happens now, the problem of soil erosion, it erodes the soil, which from the you can say that um, various countries and especially in many parts of the India. This condition under which it occurs and the measures by which it can be checked are serving as the closest study. So It can have a devastating effects for the whole country. Washing away of the soil is one of the main problems in India, especially being nothing but called as a agricultural country, right? So the causes and measures to avoid soil erosion have to be, means called as examined carefully. So that is what called as a closure study. So the meaning of closure study is called as we need to examine that how to avoid soil erosion, isn't it? The author also said that soil erosion occurs in successive steps, the earliest of which may easily pass unnoticed. In the latter ages, the cutting up and washing away of the earth is only too painfully apparent or clear in the formation of deep gullies and ravines, which make all agriculture impossible. Sudden burst of excessively heavy rain resulting in a large run of surplus water are the main factors in causing soil erosions. So please do understand why soil erosion occurs. So it is stated that soil erosion takes place in a step-by-step process, successive steps. Successive steps means called as a step by step, right? Step by step. So soil erosion occurs in a successive steps. So the first few stages may not be, you can say that you cannot notice that. First few stages cannot be unnoticed. So, but as it progresses to the latter stages, the cutting and washing away, right? That's something called as in the latter stage. What do you find out? That's called as a cutting and washing. Cutting and washing away of the earth soil is very clearly seen, and it is nothing but called as a kind of a means bothersome, isn't it? So it's only too painfully apparent in the formation of deep gullies and ravines, which make all agricultural impossible. So it's nothing but a kind of a bothersome for all the people, right? In the formation of deep gullies and ravines. So the author said that it is visible in the formation of what gullies. So when we say that gullies, the meaning of gullies is called as a deep narrow passes. Deep narrow passes. Deep narrow passes which make the land unfit for farming, isn't it? So it is even stated that you can say gully, which means deep, and ravines, which means called as a narrow passage or narrow road, which makes the land not fit for making agricultural cultivation. So the author also said that sudden burst of excessively heavy rain, so that's called as a immediately means the heavy rain can resulting in a large run of surplus water are the main factor in causing soil erosion. So the sudden heavy rain is a huge factor contributing to this problem. Heavy rains result in massive outflow of water, which washes away the soil. Along with it, means you can talk about other factors. Contributory causes are the slope of the land, removal of the natural protective coat of vegetation, the existence of ruts along which the water can flow with rapidly gathering momentum, and the absence of any checks of such flow. Uh, Possibly or incredibly, large quantities of precious soil can be washed away if such condition exist, as is too often the case. So we can say that the points here that called as a you can say slope inland, slope inland. You That's something called as a makes water rush out faster than it was earlier. Then you would talk about the second, that is called as a there is no vegetation on the land which can naturally check erosion, or called as a without trees or without plants the soil gets easily um, destroyed. So then the third one is called as ruts or groups made by passage of vehicles. So that is also another one. Ruts, or you can talk about groups. Ruts are groups made by the passage of vehicles, allows quicker and stronger outflow of water, and then after flow. that you can say that absence of any checks of such outflow of water. So these can be called as regions for the excessive soil erosion, and that can wash out unbelievable quantities of soil. It is to be noted that such huge amounts of soil are washed away nothing but called as frequently, right? Too often or frequently. Hope you understood. So, moving to the next one. So, the author also stated in the next, what is that? That the menace. When we talk about menace, what do you mean by menace? The meaning of menace is known as um, a kind of a threatening, isn't it? So the author stated that the menace which soil erosion presents to the continuance of successful agriculture is an alarming one in many parts of India, calling urgently for attention and preventive action. The terracing of land, construction of bunds to check the flow of water, the practice of contour cultivation, and the planting of appropriate types of vegetation are amongst the measures that have been suggested, right? So why now to avoid this threat, it is sure that the aim should be to check the flow of water at the means earliest possible stage before it has acquired any appreciable momentum and correspondingly large destructive power. So, what we can draw in this that we get the threat of soil erosion, and that proves to be an important threat to agriculture in many parts of India, and it requires nothing but called as a kind of a uh, immediate attention and to stop this means soil erosion part, right? So some of them are, you can talk about the terracing of lands. So you must have understand terracing of lands. What is that? Terracing of land refers to a process of cutting pieces or called as a sloped, which I pointed in the earlier part. Sloped, cutting pieces of sloped land into a series of successively receding or called as decreasing flat surfaces, like you must have gone to tea bagan, right? Tea bagan. So how do you see that how the tea plants have been cultivated? So what does it do? It stops water from rushing out, and therefore silt sediments are also kept. Now the second one is called as what? So the first one is the terracing of land. The second one is called as a construction of bunds to check the flow of water. Yeah, the practice of contour cultivation. So when we talk about contour cultivation, so this indicate about what plowing is the farming practice of planting across a slope, flowing its elevation border lines. These border lines already formed in the hill slopes. So you generally find out that where in the hill slopes areas, right? So create breaks for water, reducing the formation of, you talk about gullies during heavy rainfall. And this process allows water some extra time to settle in the soil, right? Before it gets washed away. Now, we also understand that planting correct types of crops, right? That is very essential in the, if you look into that, the next one is called as a planting appropriate types of vegetation in the related areas of soil. Each crop required a different kind of a soil and climate, and it has to be grown accordingly. So, water is the basis of all life. Every animal or plant contains a substantial proportion of free or combined water in its body, and no kind of a physiological activity is possible in which the fluid does not play an essential part. Water is, of course, necessary for an animal life, while moisture in the soil is equally important. Imperative means important for the life and growth of plants and trees through the quantity necessary differs excessively with the species. The conservation of and utilization of water is therefore fundamental for human welfare. Welfare. Apart from artisan water, Apart from artesian water, the ultimate source in all cases is rain or snowfall. Much of India's agricultural depends on seasonal rainfall and is therefore very sensitive to any failure or irregularity of the same. The problems of soil erosion and of insufficient or irregular rainfall are closely connected with each other. It is clear that the adoption of techniques stopping soil erosion would also help to conserve and keep the water where it is wanted. In other words, on and in the soil, and such techniques therefore serves a double purpose. So, what we draw here in this particular paragraph, the author wanted to point out that water is nothing but uh, very important for everyone. Whether you talk about every animal, all plants, animals, even humans have a, you can say that substantial proportion of free or combined water in its body, and no kind of a physiological activities is possible in which the fluid does not play an essential part. So if I talk about that, means the author want to state it that all have a considerable amount of water in their bodies. Fluids facilitate physical movement in the body parts to function smoothly, like how water is important for body. uh, so and also functions in animal. At the same time, you could say that it also vital for plants. Wetness in the soil is an essential factor that decides the growth of crops or plants. Each species has varying levels of consumption of water. Therefore, conservation and effective utilization of water resources is a nothing but a basic requirement for the welfare of the people, isn't it? So, even you would also find out the author stated about artesian water. So, what is that artesian water? It is a specified type of, uh, you can say that underground water. Underground water. So, artesian water is known as underground water that comes out through, you can say that spring due to the natural pressure, isn't it? Let's say that if I show you a kind of a picture of this, this is something called as a means this is ground, and if water comes immediately like this, then it is known as a what? It is known as a artesian water, isn't it? This can be called as artesian water. So um, you can say that soil erosion and insufficient rains are compared to or related to each other if the preventive measures, right? If we do not take preventive measures uh, for the soil erosion, right? So then what will happen? Um, you can find out the kind of means bad consequences for that. So therefore, the author said that the adoption of techniques uh, stopping soil erosion would also help to means conserve and keep the water, right, where it is wanted. In other words, on and in the soil, and such techniques therefore serves as nothing but a double purpose. So that is what you would find out, how means artisan water, and how means the author stated about certain suggestions through which we able to means save the soil erosion, because soil erosion is nothing but one of the biggest problem, and that happens because of the you can say that artesian water. Now, coming to the next one, where the author stated that it is evident that what, however, that in a country uh, having only a seasonal rainfall, an immense quantity of rainwater must necessarily run up the ground. The collection and utilization of this water is therefore of vital importance. So much of it flows down into the streams and rivers and ultimately finds its way to the sea. Incredibly large quantities of the precious fluid are therefore lost to the country. The harnessing of our rivers, the waters of which now mostly run to west, is a great national problem. which must be considered and dealt with on national lines. So huge areas of land which at present are you can say that mere scrub jungle could be turned into fertile and prosperous country by courageous and well planned action. So if I talk about that, the author stated that it is clear that what India being an agricultural country, right? So depends on what that's called as just seasonal rainfall. When a considerable quantity, immense quantity means called as excessive quantity of water comes down as rainfall in a particular season, right? So some part of it must be able to run up the ground, right? So run up the ground. So when we talk about run up the ground means that something called as a means some part of it must be able to not present in the ground. So even authors also said that at the same time we need to collect and effectively do what collect and effectively use the excess water in future, isn't it? Because it is something that we have borrowed from our next generation, not means it is not ours, right? So that is why the author said that what to do now. We need to understand the and we need to effectively use the excess water, effectively use the excess water in future. So, hence, this conservation of water is of great importance. So, conservation of water, it indicates nothing but saving water, isn't it? Um, Now, at the same time, the author also said that a lot of rainwater, a lot of what rainwater that does what um, that generally flows into the rivers and stream and finally reaches the ocean. Large amounts of silt laden, like we understood that silt laden water with all nutrients are therefore mixed in the sea, making a huge loss for the mankind. We have to take control of the abundant water, right? So even you can also say it is a matter of national importance, isn't it? So we have to take control of the abundant water and use it to produce sustainable energy. It is a matter of national importance. If we can handle this, uh, you can say that issue with a well planned and bold course of action, excessive areas of land which are vested, right? Excessive areas of land which are vested, mere scrub jungle could be turned into fertile. So you can say that so jungles could be saved. Can be you can say that we could turn into fertile and prosperous country by courageous and well planned action. So for that, what you need actually now the author said that what means we can remove those of the wasted as shrubs and bushes, and that can be converted into fertile farming land. So the author also said that closely connected with the conservation of water supplies is the problem of afforestation, right? So that called as a it is another aspect that is closely connected with the conservation of water resources is afforestation. Afforestation means cutting huge amount of or huge number of trees. So the systematic planting of suitable trees, or you can say that planting trees according to the vegetation, climate, and soil in every possible, right? Every possible bit of land is essential. Converting all the wild, um, you can say that all the wild and untamed jungle, right? So wild forest into fertile land that give the benefit, right or not? And that is nothing but called as a necessity for India. Such plantation would directly and indirectly helpful a source of untold wealth to the country. They would check soil erosion and also save the rainfall of the country from flowing away to west and would provide the necessary supplies of cheap fuel and therefore render unnecessary the wasteful conversion of farmyard manure into a form of fuel. So, this is what the author's suggestion that such an action would lead to a good amount of creation of wealth, good amount of creation of wealth, right, for the country. So, like what? What are the things that you can say? The first, having more trees, having more trees. Um, okay, so you can say that having more trees, right, help in preventing soil erosion. Second one is called as a conserve rainwater, saving rainwater as by avoiding wastage. And three is called as a reduce the conversion. Reduce the what? Conversion. Reduce the conversion by avoiding damage. By avoiding uh, so reduce the sorry, not to reduce the conversion, you can say that reduce the conversion of um, farm farm manure into fuel, farm manure into fuel, isn't it? As it provides for more fuel and uh, cheaper rates. Okay. Now, if we move to the next one, what does it say? The measures necessary to control the movement of water and conserve the supplies of it. Uh, conserve the supplies of. It can also serve subsidiary for purposes of value to the life of the countryside. By far, the cheapest form of internal transport in a country is by boats and barges through canals and rivers. We hear much about programs of rails and road construction, but far too nothing about the development of internal waterways in India. Then again, the harnessing of water supplies usually also makes possible the development of hydroelectric power. The availability of electric power would make a you can say that huge difference to the life of the countryside and makes enable to the rural economy to be improved in various direction. So in that case, the measure discussed here to handle the flow of water and to save water also serves a secondary purpose. It helps the people of the country by serving as a, you can say, mode of transport, right? Mode of transport. One of the cheapest forms of transportation in our country is what? That's called as a water transport. That you can go with the boats. Boats sail through canals and river instead of spending huge amounts on the kind of a thing that called as a rail and road wage, right? Which are given here. Um, so we need to think about what? I mean, so we need to think about the water, right? So that is what here the author state. We can concentrate on internal waterways also, that is called as a uh, hydroelectric, right? Hydroelectric power, uh, road construction, but far too nothing about the development of internal waterways. So the author stated that the production of electric power can greatly benefit to the rural parts of India, and it facilitates growth in all directions. So you can say that in one sense, water is the commonest of liquids. In another sense, it is the most uncommon of liquids with amazing properties which are responsible for its unique unique power of you can say that maintaining animal and plant life. The investigation of the nature and properties of water is therefore of the highest scientific interest and is far from an exhausted field of research. So the author at the end wanted to point out that what it is the most common form of all liquids because it is available to. Why does it is stated? Because it is available to all. Available to all. But at the same time, how can it also be the most uncommon form is a question. It has wonderful properties which helps to sustain plant and animal life. How can the most common form of liquid also have such exceptional properties? The examination of the right. So that is why the author stated at the end the investigation of the nature, the examination of the nature and features, properties of water is always of you can say that highest necessary or highest interest, and research in the field of water is still is nothing but an exhausted field of research, which is called as it is a kind of a means interest, which is far from an exhaustive field of research. So it means it is never going to end. So it is never going to end or ending. So that is what the author stated at the end of it. Okay. So let's go for the some possible questions. But previous to that, let me give a kind of a what we can say that a kind of a summary from this particular topic. That what now when we read this particular thing, we have discussed a lot about this particular topic, where the author's main concern is what the author's main concern is nothing but uh, um, making an awareness to the people, right? Making an awareness to the people that how important water is all about. So water is something which is compared with the panacea. Panacea, what is that panacea? It means it is called as a kind of a medicine which cure all diseases. So in that case, if you talk about this particular lesson that has been written by Sir C.V. Raman, uh, you can talk about that C.V. Raman, C.V. has emphasized on the importance of the world's most common liquid. Man has been searching for an imaginary elixir of life for ages. So, but the true medicine is very near to their hands. It is the simple water, and that's what people do not know. So the author also draws, examples. The author gives an example of the what Nile Valley, uh, by stating that uh, the civilization to show how one side is the most fertile land and the other, while the other is a sea of, you can say that, a billowing sand, right? Billowing sand. It means called as a covering with a huge sand without a spot of green vegetation. So that's nothing but the kind of a example author pointed. The author also said that Nile River is the life-giving waters that has created and sustained the whole country of Egypt, isn't it? So the author stated that how water adds beauty to the countryside, be it a small stream of the rain-fed tanks in Tamil Nadu that are common south in South India. These tanks store the silt-laden water full of, you can say that, nutrients, because nutrients and minerals which are precious to the crops, but they are often, you would find out that, neglected, right? Why they are neglected? Because that properties are not maintained. uh, Moving flow water carries fairly large and heavy particles, which the final finer particles, which are more in number, are carried to greater distances. So, and the next, the author also said that how the flow of water plays a great great beneficial uh, role in the geological process of converting rocks into soil. India, uh, soil. India, an agricultural based countries, and specifically relied on, you can say that, means seasonal rainfalls, or you can talk about snowfall, as it is the only source other than the, you can say that, artisan arti, artisan water. So we understand that conservation of rainwater becomes a huge responsibility when soil erosion is not checked. Soil erosion, though may not be evident at first, it is painfully apparent at the, you can talk about, latter stage. So, latter stages, when deep gullies, we talk about gullies and ravines. So, gullies and ravines are formed. The gullies and ravines are formed means, you can say that, a kind of zigzag path that water formed, as well as the water also make a kind of a big hole type, right? So the author also focused more on what means, um, more on that how gullies and ravines are creating agricultural cultivation challenging one. It calls for urgent preventive actions um, needed to be applied. The author also stated about terracing of land, construction of bunds. Even the author stated about contour, contour cultivation, contour cultivation, um, and planting appropriate types of vegetation at some of the measures suggested by the author also. These measures serve a double purpose of preventing soil erosion and keeping the water on and in the soil. The author also, you can say that, brings in other benefits of water, like using boats for a cheaper transport system, and you can also say that hydroelectric power, which can uplift rural areas of India. So the author stated that water is both the most common and uncommon liquid. So most common and uncommon liquid. The investigation about the nature and properties of water will always be the highest scientific interest. That's what is the ending remark of the Sir Chandrasekhar Venkatraman. Right. I hope you understood the text in a well manner. So let's move to the some possible questions. Um, what we can find out here. Okay. So we find out some of the possible questions which have been given here. Um, okay, what this possible question asked here? How does the author contrast the barrenness of the, you can say that, Libyan desert with the fertility of the Nile Valley? Now, if I talk about this particular one, how does the author contrast the barrenness of the Libyan desert with the fertility of the Nile Valley? So here you would find out 10 questions are given. So you may find out somehow called as 30 questions are given, but uh, all these questions that you find out here are nothing but the extra questions taken from the um, book itself, and these are called as a possible question, and out of them you would get somehow called as a two or three questions, right? So if you have studied these questions and try to get the answer of it, um, then see that, and also see that whether you can tackle these questions or not, so it becomes helpful for you people. Okay, I just help you in couple of questions, and means rest of the question is your job. Um, Let me take you to the first question. So what is the first question stated here? The first question: how does the author contrast the barrenness? Contrast means we understand that we go opposite of it, right? We go against of it. So the author contrasts the barrenness of the Libyan desert with the fertility of the Nile Valley. So you can say that the author uh, contrast the author contrasts the barrenness of the Libyan desert with the, you can say, fertility of the Nile Valley by describing the straight difference between the two landscapes or two pictures, right? What are the two pictures you would find out, right? So you can say that the author pointed about Libyan desert. Libyan desert is depicted as a vast expanse of what? Sand, which is nothing but creating hindrance of life. And the second one, the Nile Valley, which is a portrayed Nile Valley, which is portrayed as a lush, and you can say that fertile region, gathering with nothing but greenery and human activity, greenery and human activity, isn't it? So that is called as a answer. You can get the first question. Okay, if I move to the second question, so what do we find out? The second question said, um, according to the test, what is the yeah, so so it is asking a question that um, what is the importance of water in sustaining life in the Nile Valley? Now, if I say this, according to the test, what is the importance of water in sustaining life in the Nile Valley? So we can say that water is of paramount importance in sustaining life in the Nile Valley, as it provides, you can say that essential um, essential resource for agriculture, human habitation, and the flourishing of civilization. So, how the civilization grow? The regular presence of water from the Nile River make sure the fertility of the land and make helps agricultural productivity, which in turn supports the livelihood of the people inhabiting the village, isn't it? So that is what you find out the question two answer. Question three stated, what role does the Nile River play in the creation of and sustenance of Egypt as described in the passage? So we can say that the Nile River plays a pivotal role or an important role in the creation and sustenance of Egypt by depositing, you can say, fertile silt fertile silt, and also you can say that along its banks, which has formed the basis of agricultural productivity and civilization in the region. Over thousands of years, the Nile's waters have shaped the landscape, nourished the soil, and sustained the livelihood of the Egyptian people. Isn't it? That could be called as a question three's answer. Okay, so let me take one or two questions from the second part. So in the second part, it is stated, describe the process of precipitation when silt-laden water mixes with salt water as explained in the text. Right. Now, if I talk about this particular question, process of precipitation when silt-laden water mixes with salt water as explained in the text. Now, when we can say that when silt-laden water mixes with salt water, a process of precipitation occurs, resulting in the settling of, you can say that sediments, and the formation of land masses, land masses. This precipitation process is driven by chemical reaction in the environment and is observed when silt-laden river water the sea, enters the sea, leading to the deposition of sediments and the formation of fertile, fertile fertile land areas, isn't it? So question set two, question one is also done. So let's look into the another question. We can go with the question number six. Describe the successive steps of soil erosion. I hope uh, you know this. What has been pointed in this? The successive steps which we talk about of soil erosion mentioned in the essay involve the gradual wearing away of soil through the, you can say that, action of water, starting with the detachment of soil particles, followed by their transport by runoff, and finally their deposition in the downstream areas of bodies of water. So one, two, and three. So one is called as a, you can say, um, the detachment of soil particles, soil detachment of soil particles. Second is called as transport by runoff, transport by runoff, and finally the deposition in downstream areas, downstream areas. Okay, so that is what. So we have done three from this question number, right? So one, two, three, and from this two, let's look into the last question of this particular one. Um, what we can do here, we will go for the question five. So what does question five points out here? So question five stated that besides addressing water conservation, what other benefits are associated with the systematic planting of trees in India as outlined in the text? How can measures to control water movement and conserve water? So we can say that besides addressing water conservation, the systematic uh, planting of trees in India of, offers additional benefits such as you can say that mitigating, that's called as reducing what? Reducing climate changes, enhancing biodiversity, improving air quality, and providing providing livelihood opportunity, livelihood opportunities, right? Measure to control water movement and conserve water supplies can also serve, you can say that additional purposes, uh, beneficial to rural life by supporting agricultural development, promoting sustainable land use, and also fostering or uh, community, community resilience to water related challenges. Thank you for joining me on this enlightening journey. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring the wonders of our world. Goodbye and thank you.